Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Happy New Year to one and all. Welcome to the January 9th, 2019 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us this evening. At this time, we would ask that Ms. LaMagna review the procedures for tonight's meeting.
Good evening. Agendas are available in the front of the room on the table to my right. All of the exhibits pertaining to items on the agenda are posted on the bulletin board. Please feel free to view the exhibits at any time during tonight's meeting. You are required to fill out a yellow form to speak before the City Commission during the business meeting. The yellow forms are located next to the Assistant City Clerk, Ms. Allison Brown. You must complete the sections that ask for your name, address, agenda item number, signature, and date. The form must be completed and placed in the designated box. You will not be allowed to speak if your form is not placed in the designated box. Items on the agenda for first reading usually do not allow for public participation. However, there are some instances where citizens are allowed to speak on first reading items when they are considered public hearings. Items on the agenda for second reading are open for public hearing, and citizens may speak at the designated time. Resolutions under administrative items number 10 are open for public comments, and you may fill out a yellow form to speak when that item is called. Item 7A is your opportunity to address the City Commission concerning any item on the consent agenda. Please indicate on the yellow speaker sheet the agenda item number of the item you are addressing. Items or discussions not listed on the consent agenda will not be heard during this comment section. All citizens completing a yellow form will be allowed to speak for 2.5 minutes. When you approach a lectern, please speak clearly in the microphone and give your full name and address. The 2.5-minute clock on the monitor above and directly in front of you will start running when you begin to speak. Pay close attention to your time. You will be told when your time has expired. Item number 13, the public comment forum, will convene after the adjournment of the business meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to speak on any issue that is not on the business meeting agenda. All citizens completing the green form will be allowed to speak for 2.5 minutes. When you approach the lectern, please give your full name and address. Disorderly conduct in the public meeting of the City Commission. Article 2, Section 6238 of the City Code of Ordinances reads as follows. It shall be unlawful for any person to behave in a riotous or disorderly manner in any public meeting of the City Commission or any committee, agency, or board thereof, or to cause any unnecessary disturbances therein by force, shouting, or any other action that is calculated to disrupt such meeting, or to refuse to obey any ruling of the presiding officer or such meeting relative to the orderly process thereof. Please be courteous and respectful of the views of others. Personal attacks on the City Commission, city staff, or members of the public are not allowed. Please silence cell phones and other wireless devices during the meeting. All conversation must take place either at the lectern or on the dais so that everyone can hear the business being discussed tonight.
Thank you. Ms. LaMagna, may we have a roll call?
Commissioner Henry?
Here.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Traeger?
Here.
Commissioner Delgado?
Here.
Commissioner May?
Here.
Commissioner Gilliland?
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry?
Here. We'll now have the invocations to be led by Commissioner Traeger, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Henry.
Heavenly Father, bless us all as we start off on a new year. Give us wisdom and patience to get along with each other so that we can do the best work for our city and the residents thereof. Give us the knowledge and the foresight to help those who need to be helped. And bless those overseas and our first responders who help us here in the city, and all of our employees who work together so much to make us such a wonderful town. Thank you very much, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes of the December 19, 2018 Shade meeting and the December 19, 2018 business meeting of the City Commission.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland. We'll take a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0. This time, we will hear from our city manager, who will address any changes that we have to our agenda.
There's no changes tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve agenda.
All right, we take a motion from Commissioner Traeger and a second from Commissioner Gilliland. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
We'll now move on to item number 6, which is the Beautification Awards for December of 2018. A member of the Beautification Tree Advisory Board to present.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm Jamie Newman, 535 Mulberry Street, Zone 3. Mayor Henry, members of the City Commission, and Mr. Chisholm. The Beautification and Tree Advisory Board has selected Shane and Avi Applegate, 135 South Peninsula Drive, as the Residential Beautification Award winner for the month of December 2018. Mr. and Mrs. Applegate have been residents of Daytona Beach for 13 years, moved here from California. Their yard was nothing but dirt at the time they moved in. Everything they planted has been grown from clippings, from other plants, or from seed. The types of trees, shrubs, and plants used for beautification include cactus, golden barrel, birthday cake, bunny ears, aloe, euphorbia, hoodia, haworthia, huernia, sedum, pachypodium, jade tree, ponytail palms, Washingtonia palms, sago palms, areca palms, just to name a few. City Commissioner Juanita May, Zone 3, will be presenting the award.
If I might interject, you do a phenomenal job with the pronunciation of those various types of plants.
And without any practice.
Okay.
Excuse me. Is Louis here? There's no one to take a picture? Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, we appreciate that. Mr. Reeves is going to take a picture. The most reliable.
Yes.
He probably went back down those pictures. He probably went back.
Went back to look at the other pictures he just took. So it doesn't stop working.
Thank you,
All
John.
right.
Wait a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Reliable.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Mayor Henry, members of the Commission, and Mr. Chisholm, the Beautification and Tree Advisory Board has selected Bethune-Cookman University Historical District, 640 Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard as the Commercial Beautification Award winner for the month of December 2018. Bethune-Cookman University has been in Daytona Beach area for 114 years. The building was originally constructed in 1915 for the purpose of the President's Suites, administrative offices, and Gertrude Hayne Chapel. The Whitehall campus is named after Thomas White, founder of the White Sewing Machine Company, also known as the Daytona Educational and Industrial Training School. On July 15, 1992, Whitehall was added to the U.S. National Register of Historic Places. The types of trees, shrubs, and plants used for beautification include Laura Petalum, Plum, Duranta, Gold Mound, Croton's Petra, Supertunia Vista, Bubblegum, and Live Oak Trees. Mayor Henry will be presenting the award.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you to the great Bethune-Cookman University. The historical district of Bethune-Cookman is one of the most, if not the most sacred of places in all of Daytona Beach. And the pristine manner in which you all take care of it makes us all proud, and is great for visitors, and it honors the great legacy of our founder. And we thank you all for what you do.
Okay, we'll now move on to item number 7. This is public comments by people addressing the City Commission. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item on the consent agenda. My first speaker is John Nicholson.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I don't know if Ann's going to come up or anyone else is going to come up. There was a concern about the rec center being torn down. It's an historic center, but from what I understand here, it doesn't say how much is being given and what's being done. And we know the trail was the original reason why they were going to tear it down. Where's the trail going to go, north or south? And do we have someone coming in? Is there a possibility that we have somebody or some use? We could find out what the use is going to be. Thank you.
And that was my only speaker for item number 7.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Henry. Do we have any questions or corrections to the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
And those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we'll now move on to item number 9, which is our public hearings. Item number 9A is the Engineering Public Works Division, Tomoka Town Center, Parcel B, Preliminary and Final Partial Replat Approval Resolution. A resolution approving the preliminary and final partial replat for Tomoka Town Center, Parcel B, on 17.73 plus or minus acres of land for development of a multifamily residential subdivision located on the north side of Mason Avenue and west of Williamson Boulevard, authorizing the city manager to sign the final partial replat and permit recordation, thereupon meeting certain conditions precedent, and providing an effective date.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Delgado.
I do have Mr. Rob Merrill here for questions.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Merrill? Okay, if there be no questions, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
We'll now move on to item number 10, which is our administrative items. Item number 10A is the Development and Administrative Services Redevelopment Division, China 1, rezoning to Redevelopment Midtown Neighborhood Center Mixed Use, RDM2. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 0.246 plus or minus acres of property located at 617 Bellevue Avenue from SFR5 Single Family Residential to RDM2 Redevelopment Midtown Neighborhood Center Mixed Use, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed, and we'll take a second from Commissioner Traeger. Do we have any questions or comments concerning this? All right. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
The public hearing is set for January 23rd. Moving on to item number 10B, it's the Development and Administrative Services Redevelopment Division, a Vista Rezoning Plan Development Redevelopment. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 2.176 plus or minus acres of property located at 41 South Ocean Avenue from RDB1 Beachside Redevelopment Hotel Mixed Use to PDRD Plan Development Redevelopment, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the Avista Plan District Agreement with Avista Properties 7 LLC, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Traeger. We'll take a second from Commissioner Gilliland.
I do have Joey Posey here for questions from the Storch Law Firm.
All right, we don't want to have any questions. Okay. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
The public hearing is set for January 23rd. Moving on to item number 10C, it's the City Manager's Office, Florida Power and Light FPL Utility Easement Resolution. A resolution granting Florida Power and Light Company, FPL, an easement on city-owned property located at State Route 92 to install and maintain electrical services to the First Step Shelter building site, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the easement, authorizing the city manager to execute related FPL documents needed to give effect to this resolution, and providing when this resolution shall take effect.
So move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Traeger and a second from Commissioner Delgado.
I do have a speaker on this item, Mr. Mayor, Mr. John Nicholson.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I'm presuming that this line is going to be above ground. I'm wondering if you all would consider putting it underground because we had hurricanes and whatnot, and that in future, all public related entities, the wires be placed underground. You might as well do it while the ground is vacant. There's no sidewalk. There's no whatever. Just put a trench in there, and there it goes. If we have to, split the cost. In the long run, the city will benefit. Thank you.
That was my only speaker on this item.
All right.
If I may, Mayor, this is for an underground utility easement.
Yes. Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from the commission? Okay. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving on to item number 10. 10D, which is City Manager's Office Planning Board Appointment Resolution. A resolution appointing one member to the Planning Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2022, and providing an effective date. Ms. Betty Goodman to report.
Good evening. This agenda item is to appoint one member to the Planning Board. The membership term of James Newman, Zone 3, expired on December 31st, and Mr. Newman would like to continue to serve. Commissioner May, are you ready to appoint?
Yes, I am. I would like to appoint Jamie Newman, please. Mr. Newman.
Awesome. All right. We have a motion from Commissioner May and a second from Commissioner Gilliland. All those who are in
Public comment.
We have no public comment for this item.
Okay. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Goodman. Okay, moving on to comments and inquiries from this commission. I think we start with Commissioner Henry.
Welcome back, everyone. Glad to see everyone made it back safely. I do have a comment, or I need some clarification on the past week when we had our food truck event. It's come to my attention that 1,000 feet is the distance for churches as well, right? For the neighborhoods. Who can answer that for neighborhoods?
Dennis, are you here? Come on.
I don't think 1,000 feet from the church is correct.
No, neighborhood,
Oh, from a neighborhood.
yes.
Mr. Morozek, excuse me.
Yeah, I know they're not allowed in residential.
Thanks. Dennis Morozek, Planning Director. Are you talking about the restriction from the single family to the?
Yes.
When it's dealing with the food trucks, I believe we were setting up, it was either 250 feet or 500 feet. 500 feet. We were setting it up from the food truck to the single family property. But with the produce trucks, I don't think we had the restriction on, so the produce trucks would be able to.
Thank you. My concern is that that would limit possibly every church in Paula's zone and every church in my zone, and as you know, churches and barbecues and food truck, that's a weekly event. So I'm concerned that that would eliminate everyone in your area, because there's 250 feet in every church to the house, as well as in my zone as well, if you think about it.
I don't believe we had a separation requirement from churches.
You do from residential, though.
From residential.
Right.
Right. So from every home to every church in her zone, I believe it's within that 250 feet.
If there were a single family within that distance, then
Yes.
they wouldn't be able to do it unless they had permission from the single family property owner to be able to establish it. That's the way we have it currently worded in the text.
I think that may be an issue. I know it would be an issue in the churches in your zone, because I think every one of them participate in some type of food event. And each church in my zone is within 250 feet of a home as well, a residential area and home as well. So I would like to see what we can do with that.
We can modify that language to discuss churches and the location of churches to the single family and bring that change forward.
Now, I want to make sure I understand the change. Are you proposing that there not be a separation requirement from churches, or that we have a minimal separation requirement?
Mr. Excuse me. I think what you are suggesting is that churches be permitted to do it even though they are within 250 feet.
I see.
That works for
That's
me.
what it
I just
sounds
want it
like.
remedied.
Yes, ma'am. And we can certainly do it that way. And when you look at the food truck versus an activity at a church that may involve a food truck, we're really treating them not the same. And I understand what you're saying about the neighborhoods and the cookouts and so on. I've been to a number of the places there, so we can address that and not eliminate the churches or prevent the churches from doing that. Because certainly you would expect the church to be proximate to a home and also to be able to have things that would bring people to the church. So if that's Commissioner's direction, we'll take care of that.
Okay. That's my only comment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
We'll fix it. Commissioner will
opposed
fix
to
it.
that, I agree with it.
And so if we may, Mr. Attorney, are we able to treat this as a non-substantial amendment and bring it back that way?
We were bringing this back for first reading, so
Okay.
we'll be starting all over with that.
It will be in the first reading, Commissioner, when it comes back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other issues or
That's
comments?
my only concern.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Reed.
Well, Happy New Year. Commissioner Henry is still providing presents, and the holiday is over, because she looked out for my zone as well. Thank you very much. On the, annually in January, we celebrate a man who gave up his life so that all citizens, all Americans, can have an opportunity to not only have an education, but to just have the playing field of life to be equal. And as we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King on the 21st of January, I'm just looking at some low-hanging fruit for Zone 6. And what I've done is I've asked staff to assist me with a MLK cleanup on this Saturday, January 12th. Join me, and I think Commissioner May is joining me as well, for a cleanup of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard from Shady Place to George Ingram Boulevard. When you think about the fact that most cities in the United States have recognized this man by giving him a street or a boulevard or a road of some sort, then I think we have a responsibility to make sure that street reflects his life. And then I think we, as we initiate this first serious cleaning, the citizens and the business owners along that street will help us, as well as volunteers and the streets team, to maintain that street. It's sometimes it's one of the worst streets you see, and it doesn't reflect the life of the man that we so honor. So on this Saturday from 9 to 12, join us for an MLK Day of service, and we're going to clean that street.
Where are we meeting?
The starting point is at the Dickerson Center as well as Allen Chapel. From Allen Chapel, we're going to move south to the Dickerson Center, from the Dickerson Center south to Shady Place. All right, I'm excited about that. Yes.
Awesome.
And I have flyers. If you need flyers, we have flyers. So join us for that. That concludes my thoughts for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Great idea, and thank you for spearheading that and taking that home. Commissioner Traeger?
Just a reminder about the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. Sign up is coming up, the 15th?
You can sign up right now. If you sign up prior to the 15th, you will earn a free line dance.
And the cost is only $20, which is a very good bargain to get fit.
It is.
And we're giving awards out to the police are giving some of the awards to their fellow officers and those that help them, and the employee awards are coming up also. I am so glad we can thank them for everything that they do for us, because sometimes we forget to say thank you.
That's right. Commissioner Delgado?
Happy New Year. Looking forward to getting some stuff done this year. Nothing else.
Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
It's me again. All right. So upon direction of Mr. Nicholson, I went for a walk with him. We took a look at some graffiti. I alerted Chief Capri. He and I went for a drive through the areas that you suggested and along Beachside and also through my zone. And Chief Capri, could you tell us what you found and what happened, please? Because I hear we've had some good results from that drive. And thank you, Mr. Nicholson, for pointing that out to me.
Craig Capri, Police Chief. We found several locations with some graffiti, which, I'm sorry,
all right.
Officer Jesmer, we're already addressing it. We're just trying to get them covered. And we actually have some of our code enforcement people actually have paint in their vehicles. In case we see it, we can immediately cover it up. So the goal is get on top and get on it quick. The good thing is it's not as bad as you see in other cities, I think, as we're addressing it. And as the redevelopment comes in and you're seeing new construction, it's starting to phase out. So we got to stay on top of it.
Could you also address the speeding that I brought
Yes.
to your attention on South Beach Street and then also on Eastwood on Beachside?
We've been working traffic on South Beach Street, on Eastwood Lane, and we've been writing several tickets in those locations too. Give them warnings too. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but they've done a lot of activity there, and we've put it on our selective traffic enforcement plan where motor officers are required to work at certain times during the week for 2 hours at a shot based on what they're seeing as far as speeding. So they're addressing all those speeding complaints.
And so it was a necessary spot then?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
We also did Mary McLeod Bethune. We got several.
That's what I want to know. So could you talk to me about 2nd Avenue, please?
Yes. We've 800 block. We've realized that as we were out there, we saw a couple speeders. So they've been out there really writing some tickets out there in the last couple of days. And we're going to do a 2-week study to see how it looks after 2 weeks. But the word, I think, is getting out that you really can't speed down there. We need to look at some other issues too. You know, when we're coming out of Jefferson and College Park, we got to really address some of those parking issues because people can't really see as they're coming out going northbound. So we're looking at some things in there. But the number one goal is to slow them down.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your time that evening. Thank you. So that was the first thing. So fantastic. Thank you very much for your help. The next thing is going to be, Mr. Chisholm, the sanitation issue with the benches and the washroom and the porta-johns you were talking about. Where are we on that, sir?
I've indicated that, or given direction to the Public Works Department really to provide those facilities at the locations when the bathrooms are closed.
I think a resident was telling me even tourists could benefit from that, just in general, right?
Right.
Okay, so moving down my list. So before my time, I believe the commission had a conversation about the privilege of permits during Bike Week. The privilege of this. And I believe at the time there was a 250-day rule, the concept of what an open business looks like. What does that mean? And I think that there was going to be a report of some sort of which businesses are open, how many days they're open. Are we still tracking that? Thank you.
Commissioner Tim Morris, Deputy City Manager. We haven't formulated a report, but we did do checks with all the businesses on Main Street. The Bike Week Master Plan is presently being finished by the Chamber of Commerce and the agencies that we work with, so that the businesses that didn't qualify are not able to have outside activities.
Okay.
So there was a few that didn't qualify. I think it's 3 total. in respect to those that asked to participate. Not everyone asked to participate. So we didn't create a census in writing. Certainly we can give that to you in pretty short order if that's what the commission would like or you would like. We'll be happy to provide that. And another aspect, if I might go a little further, not directly on your question, in respect to the privilege of doing business, we're looking at that in terms of some modest code enforcement or code changes to address the fact that it is a privilege to be able to do the outside activities where, and it relates really to code enforcement and rectifying code citations that may be outstanding but yet not addressed. And we did address that in the Bike Week Master Plan when we met with the Chamber and the folks over there at their building to talk about places that didn't qualify because of code violations and the message that they should have that wrapped up by the time the Commission approved the Master Plan, which is coming up shortly. And we got almost immediate response in terms of correction of known code violations on Main Street with those folks that had issues such as licensure and other things. They took immediate steps to either correct, or in one case, the property was kept out and the property owner simply said they weren't going to address the issues, that it was too much money for them, and they would simply stand down on this particular one.
And so in them not taking care of the property, does that mean they were closed or open?
They were closed, and from the perspective of there's different maintenance issues, there's landscaping issues, there are graffiti issues, there are issues in respect to the way the buildings are kept up, there's roofing issues in one particular case, paving not being done like it should be done. There's a variety of things that pertain, and we really had perhaps the most cohesive effort this year we've had between code enforcement, a census, intensive staff review by two folks. I took 3 people, myself included, to the Chamber meeting and went through everything with the folks at the Chamber, which largely represents the stakeholders on Main Street to talk to them about the city's intentions.
So again, remember, I'm new, so I have a question. The 250 days.
Yes, ma'am.
When is that triggered, and how is that counted?
So from the perspective of the requirement is that to participate in outside sale activities, you have to do business that 250-day period per year. And code enforcement through the police department, and I think Officer Jessemer, too, who's seated behind you, goes through and they actually make checks of that to see if the businesses are open. We've also looked at it from the standpoint of some businesses would say, we're open, but we're in, say, building number 1, and when you're at building number 2, you need to come down and get us from building number 1 to see if we're open. We're not going along with that, to actually have people, the intent is to have people actually operate their businesses. Now, but you got to keep in mind the other side of the coin is you can still do business indoors, even if you're not open 250 days per year. You can still pull a license and actively participate indoors in your business, because if the business is zoned properly and you pass the proper inspections, you can still pull a business license at any time. And business licenses do not cause anybody anywhere to do business a minimum number of days per year. It's simply their right to operate their business, which is separate from the privilege component that you mentioned for the outside sales activities.
Are we separating those two? Are we saying it's got to look a certain way
No,
to be
but
considered open?
We have some maintenance standards. I may not be answering your question,
No.
so if so, come back to me. So we've got buildings that may not be open, and someone may choose to open that business for Bike Week. If they pass the inspections necessary to open the doors and be licensed for business, they can open and do business for that time period and then close their doors again.
How do I would like them to be open, their doors open, not during Bike Week. Let's say the rest of the year. How do we count that too? And when does that clock start?
Actually, if I can,
please.
Bob wrote a memo on this.
Okay.
The reality is we cannot regulate what goes on inside. It's zoned retail. They got their license. If they want to be only open for that week, they can do that.
They can do that.
Yeah. That's your question states a dilemma that everybody's had for a long time, and that's why I drew the distinction, because we have some control on the outside due to the privilege aspect of the outside sales, which are not normally permitted, versus as a matter of right in a property zoned correctly with the proper licenses, you have the right to open the doors, but you also have the right to close the doors, and we don't have a remedy for that particular solution.
Okay.
Or question, I should say.
All righty.
I got a golf course. I'd like to apply that to.
Yeah.
Are we trying to find a way around it, through it, chatting about it, or figuring a way to create something for that?
In that particular issue, I don't.
Or are we stuck?
Ma'am?
Or are we stuck?
I think that we're stuck in that respect.
Oh.
It's a property right.
Okay.
And it's a circumstance where there's no way to compel a person to do a business or to operate a losing business.
The only
Now-
thing we're restricting is whether or not they can rent the space on the outside.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Let me just help a little bit. What we're speaking to is the 24-month operation or 12-month operation of a business during the year. And I think to really address it, you have to address the economic issue more than the keep the door open, because it doesn't do any good to keep the door open if the lights aren't on.
Sure.
That's kind of what you're finding right now. One approach that is recommended out of the Beachside Committee is to develop a plan for the redevelopment of that area and include in that plan all the amenities necessary to service it and to use it as a catalyst for economic investment, and not necessarily just leaving everything as it is and continuing the same way. And I think that's where you're going to get a better return on investment, is to find the right remedy with the assistance of a consultant that can bring to the table solutions that bring economic development.
You said two things that I'm going to just play off of. They're in my notes. Thing one, I'm good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Number one, you said lighting on Main Street. Where are we with that?
I don't know the exact status of it, but I can get you a report back on it.
Okay.
It's
And
not
then
something we'll have.
Thank you so much for checking the lighting on Beach Street as we move toward working toward our parking issues. Thank you for making sure all the lights are up there. And the final thing is, Mayor Henry, you sent us all some information, which was interesting, about affordable housing and workforce housing. So are we very focused on that right now as a commission? And how can we
Good
help?
question. And I am deeming that as a chief priority, the chief seminal priority for me moving forward over the next 2 years. And I would like for us as a commission to come together and workshop those items and address some concerns, and all study those and other issues and bring out as much as we can, because I think it's a great concern for us.
So I read some of the information that the attorney sent and that you sent with regard to SHIP and LHAP and different ordinances that we had on the books right now. It's complex. It involves multiple layers of finance. It involves builders, developers, design, implementation, execution. Have we considered, as we do with other projects, getting a consultant? But can we talk about in the future getting a consultant who focuses on affordable workforce housing? But we have had so many plans that we've paid for. Could we have a conversation in the future about possibly even a local organization that has some experience in not only creating, designing, implementing, executing, and dealing with finance? Can we look for that?
I personally think that's not a bad idea, but I think the first thing that we have to do is have a conversation about what it is that we have done in the past, how some of those things have changed, what are the rules that we want to have in place to attract developers who will participate in this. So in other words, before we jump to having a consultant, we need to determine how many affordable houses we'd like to see in our region, in our area, and what it is that we can do. So I do agree that it is complex, and there were a lot of documents that I sent, but there are also a lot of layers to those, because some of them have more to do with some of the changes that I think we've made that we have some control over, even as it relates to what do we call it? It's not the affordable advisory team or program that we had here, and it's not. It doesn't operate, at least, and so I think we need to. That's a part of where we need to be as a city. That needs to be up and operating so that they can properly advise us and properly help us to do their job. So I think that's a good idea, but I think that's ahead of where we should be. But
I
do
just
think
love
it's
that
a
we're
good
moving
idea.
forward, though. I think that's great.
Just to kind of elaborate a little bit, and the city has participated in affordable housing over the past 10 years with the Housing Authority as one of those agencies that implement housing needs in our community, and they're really a strong arm for doing it. There are a number of ways you can address it. You can do something separately where it's a private function and have participation in the private sector as a percentage of the housing they bring to the table, have a percentage that's affordable housing. But probably the biggest bang for the buck is going to be having either the Housing Authority or a similar agency that has the direct funding from the federal government to assist in providing that next step housing that's available for those that are getting started in life.
And there's just so many layers to that. I mean, even he and I had a discussion about the property on George Ingram, that we as a city have $1 million invested in that property that is owned by the Housing Authority, but we have a lot of money invested in that. To see that come to light, it should be we want it to be a priority. They have a new director, Soldier On, which was a project that we had sort of wanted to go in that place. Community said no. I think we need to revisit that. That's another thing that we need to discuss, because it could be conceivable that we might want to consider trying to see if Soldier On would be willing to do it in an area adjacent to the First Step shelter. That's just so there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, and so I think it starts with us. That's why I sent those documents, but I think we all need to go through those documents in a very detailed way and come up with an agenda to discuss them so that they're kind of broken down and it's not just
Sure. Are we going to have a workshop then in the future?
That's if it's the will of this commission, I would certainly.
I'm following your
Certainly.
lead, sir. So can I suggest or request that we have a workshop regarding that, please?
I certainly am in agreement with that.
Okay, fantastic.
If it does the rest of us well,
I thought that's what we were going to do anyway.
Yeah, we did say that,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, let's do
But
it.
I think we should set a date, and then what I would do is be happy to sit down with Bob and the city manager and go over those documents again and create an agenda so that it's focused. Because there's a lot of information in there, and we want to be focused on what we're talking about. So,
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, that's fabulous.
Mr. Mayor, may I jump in one more time?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Chief, it's January.
Just waiting on you guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just when the holidays came in and everybody was kind of off, so we were ready to go. So whenever you want to get together, we're ready to cut the ribbon. We've been working out of there. The New Year's Eve, we're working out of there. Just want to have an official ribbon cutting. Some furniture was back order. That's the only issue, but it's looking really good. It's looking really nice.
You're talking about opening a center?
Yes, sir. Midtown
Yep.
Substation.
I think as soon as he's getting staffed in there, I think we'll be ready to do it. I know you're working. I know you're working out of it right now, but I know you don't have all your equipment and stuff you need.
We just some furniture got back ordered, some of the desks and stuff, and then the bulletproof glass is going to be for the one front is going to be back ordered. But that's going to be a couple more months. But we can run without the glass there for now. It's because it's specially made.
Okay.
But we can set a date up whenever you're ready to go. We're ready to roll.
All right.
All right.
We'll get back to you with a date.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Senior Commissioner Gilliland.
So the affordable housing conversation reminded me of, Jim, what's going on with talking to Orman about the utility agreement for the second phase of Margaritaville?
We're in discussions with them. Well, we've been in writing back and forth right now, so we got to work on the outcome. I think we have a preliminary design of the system needs, and that should be something we can solve.
So to kind of remind everybody, what happened was the second phase was dead. It was not going to happen. $800 million of tax base down the drain. Minto came back and said, we'll give it another 90 days. And I think we're probably about day 75 or 80 right now. So that extension they entered into, I think, runs out at the end of this month. And really what it boiled down to was all the fees And the affordable housing thing made me think of this because we always think, oh, well, I shouldn't say we would think, but the public has this tendency to think, oh, there's somebody building a big development, let's make them put a bunch of money into affordable housing, when the reality is these developments are barely getting by and getting built today. And that second phase of Margaritaville was one that is probably, that's on life support right now. So there is not particularly all the extra fees that are being put on these guys, both through impact fee, proportionate share fare agreements. In this case, there's an additional burden with that utility agreement. I'm hopeful that we can get it worked out, but Orman's a big player in that, and I'm glad to hear that there's dialogue happening, but the clock's ticking, and if we're going to ask Minto to enter into another extension on the purchase agreement, they're going to want to know where we are status-wise and a deadline as to when we expect to have something that we can bring forward to show that they're not going to have to try and sell a 2,000 square foot house for $350,000 because that's where they are, and that's not going to happen.
Well, I wasn't aware, first of all, that they were benching all of their bets on solving the agreement because specifically
Jim, that's one of the things I said. I said the utility agreement is with proportionate fair share, the county doubling the impact fees, new issues that are coming up with DOT. The utility agreement is part of that. That's what I said. So don't twist my words, make it sound like that's the one.
I'm not trying to twist your words, but I want to be sure I understand it.
It's a part of it. It's a part of it, but they've got to figure out how to make the numbers work because today they don't work. That is a piece of the solution, and your conversations with Orman are an integral part, not the entire thing, but an integral part of whether or not there's a possibility of breathing life back into that project.
They have failed to give me that kind of information, or I've failed to receive it or understand it.
You failed to receive it
because I know
you and I have talked about this on several occasions.
I know that they have. In the agreement they approved with us, it included the agreement that we have with Orman Beach.
That agreement ended up being transferred to Consolidated. It wasn't with Minto. That was part of the life preserver there at the end to try and keep it alive. So, there was a 90-day window there to have these conversations. That was the only part we could fix. So what's up with the county, what's up with DOT was not our responsibility to move forward, but it is good to hear that you're having dialogue with them, but the clock's ticking, and I'm pretty sure it's the end of this month when that 90-day extension runs out. So you may want to get hold of Joyce and see, and certainly get hold of Rob Merrill and make sure we understand what where we stand, because Minto's got a lot of soft costs involved with, they've already spent on that second phase. They don't want to walk away from that, but if they're going to build it and lose money, they'll walk instead. So, but that's something that definitely needs to have attention paid to it. And, if they're seeing progress being made on these different fronts, then, I think that there's a good likelihood that they will, move forward with, another extension on the purchase agreement. So.
And so you're saying, though, Jim, that they didn't, and you had no knowledge from them about the deal with Orman, because they certainly had the same conversation with me, and that's, I really didn't think it was a sole deal breaker, but I really think it's from their conversation with me is paramount that we get that addressed. It's so much so till they asked me to make contact with their mayor to make sure that their side was willing to sit down and have a serious conversation.
Yeah, we've had discussions with Orman, one formal face-to-face discussion, and then we had several letters of correspondence going back and forth, but I don't recall the communications. And Jim, if you've heard anything from Minto, I'd certainly like to know it.
No, sir. I haven't had any communication from Mr. Merrill or from any of the Minto representatives, and frankly, Mr. Gilliland, what you said tonight is a complete surprise to me.
Well, you two have been asleep at the wheel then, because
No, I
brought this up.
haven't been privy to any of the communication, and nothing has been said to that effect. And in fact, when it pertained to the extension of tournament, Consolidated did pick that up, and we did have discussions with Minto about the ability to extend utility lines from the Minto side in the northern phase over to tournament to accommodate looping water lines, which they were unwilling to work with us to do that. In respect to the agreement with Ormond, the agreement with Ormond exists as it does. Now, we did work out agreements with them in pertention to the extension of Timber Creek, which they are extending only to the northern boundary. We talked to them about the water tank, which is a $2 million city expenditure, as well as a place for a fire station to provide fire service. That is the last set of conversation that I participated in with anyone, whether from Minto. The City of Ormond was predating that, the meeting Mr. Chisholm mentioned, where the city came here. And then that's been the last discussion. And I talked to Rob Merrill probably 10 times a week, and he's never said a single word, not one.
I don't think they have continually said it'd be nice if we had that agreement modified and changed the agreement. And I do recall that conversation from Minto. But the only sense of expense that has is the extension of the line from the water tank to their commercial project would be the only additional expense that agreement would cause, and that's something that can be addressed within the scope of the agreement we have.
Well, in conversations you and I have had, you explained to me you wanted to create a utilities district out there so that the additional charges, because Ormond's going to get all the money, and we're going to be on the hook for all the repairs. Do these conversations sound familiar now?
No.
Is it ringing a bell? That
we've
had a number of conversations about this?
We've had some discussions about looking at a utility district. We never got to the point of getting something finalized, I guess, is where I'm at with that.
You and I simply have a different reckoning of this, because they, board member comments at the end of our November TPO meeting. Ed Kelly was in the room, and so was Dwight Selby from the Ormond Commission. I made the same comment of, this is an important part of trying to make sure that this project doesn't fail. And both of them understood exactly what I was talking about. I said it at the end of our meetings back in December. So, it's very important that, we had 90 days, which is not a lot of time for a government to get something done, particularly two governments to negotiate on something. And, you and Rob need to figure out where Minto is and John, and we need to figure out, you need to figure out, work with Joyce to figure out what, from the output of that conversation, what needs to happen with Joyce. One of the things you told me before was that when the agreement was entered into 10, 12 years ago, that it was always contemplated that the development would start at Granada and go south. It was never, that agreement wasn't modeled in a way to make it appear as though it would start in the middle, between LPGA and Granada and move north, which is what is actually happening. So it's a different set of circumstances that agreement didn't contemplate, which was the grounds for going back to Ormond and saying, hey, can we take another look at this? So, I think that it's, this is a very important project at Daytona Beach for a tax revenue piece. I'm actually very excited about the fact that Timber Creek will get cut through. Tomoka, or Tournament, is just a dedication of the right-of-way. That road won't be built for 50 years. But, if the second phase gets built of Margaritaville, we have another east-west connector, which Ormond is very interested in, because now all of a sudden you make it more reasonable for there to be an overpass at Hand Avenue, because there's a north-south connector for that road to connect to on the west side of I-95. So there's a lot of dominoes that fall into place with the development on the west side of town if the second phase happens. And granted, we're talking things are going to be, 6 to 8 years from now for a start. They're going to build out this first phase before they move on to that. But, having all these things in place so they will happen in the future is important, and that conversation with Ormond is an integral part of it.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we need to have some serious discussions. And let's try to make some progress, because the project, I agree, is vital to our overall regional posterity. Because I look at this area as, and a lot of people complain about it because of the traffic and et cetera, but having reasonable growth is important to a community, and this is growth that, for as long as I can recall, we have anticipated that it would transpire, and this particular project gives us almost a guaranteed, consistent growth mindset as a community. Not a growth mindset, but a growth experience. So I want to make sure that we've done all that we can do to make sure that it happens. And if this is a part of it, as I understand it to be, and he does, let's just make sure we get on top of it. Anything else?
Two more quick things. Looks like DOT with the Derbyshire Park sidewalks and whatnot, there was about $400,000 that we were going to be able to move that into this current TPO planning year. But DOT is now saying they want us, and Andy's back there, the CEI advertising and bid, what is that, construction engineer, it's like the oversight, part of the LAP agreement. So it's having an expert because we're going to oversee the construction, it's having that expert involved with the project from our side early on, and they want the advertising and bid for that to be done. So it looks like that won't actually be added to the transportation improvement program until March. I was hoping that everything the city needed to do from a design standpoint is done, but DOT, and I've never heard them ask for this before. I think they're actually having some money issues right now as they're closing in on the end of the year. So we will be able to, it looks like it's still going to happen. It's still going to happen this year, which will be before the end of June, that it will get formally programmed and funded. But it does look like we're going to have about a 2-month delay from what I was hoping we would see. And lastly, it looks like the half-cent sales tax is moving forward, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that during your comments of the meeting from Monday. But, we did have one workshop on what our priorities would be. That vote is going to hinge on, modeling after what the school board did for this is what we're going to do if this passes. We had the one workshop, and everybody threw some things in there. Juanita wasn't on the commission then, so I think it's important that we have, in addition to an affordable housing workshop, a revisit of the prioritization of projects that we would fund if the half-cent sales tax were to pass. Because that's something that needs to be, if they're looking at if it's a possibility of a May mail-in ballot, we need to have that done, probably by March, our list. So.
Okay. That's critical that we have that list, and that from my perspective, I'll just revisit what I said in the past and have said at those roundtable meetings. It has to be a lot in it for the residents. I think for it to sell, they have to really see that the people who live here, and it can't all be for new thoroughfares, or it has to be for existing areas that are the most challenged. And I know that we have some water issues. We have a lot of issues, infrastructure issues, and some that are not as not that roads are ever glitzy, but I think roads tend to be more glitzy than water, because it's something that people can see.
We all get complaints about streets getting repaved.
Yeah. And
this is an opportunity, it's $2.5 million a year to repave every street once every 20 years, and we get $900,000 out of gas tax.
Mm-hmm.
We just can't do it.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for us to have a plan where people know when their street is going to get repaved.
Yeah.
And that is one of my priorities. And we all hear it.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
I heard it over the weekend from one of Ruth's residents who lives over at the golf course, because that road going through the golf course to the townhouses in the back is in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
So, but that's something that I think everybody would get on board with.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be the only thing, but it is important. So.
Yeah, this is critical.
And that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Traeger has already mentioned the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. I did not do as well as I had hoped at gaining weight over the holiday, so I don't think I'm going to have much chance at losing enough weight to be the biggest loser, but either way, it is, as I've said before, $500 on the line to the person that loses the most weight, not by pound, but it's by percentage. And it's going to be an exciting and good time. It's actually a great time for fellowship, and we, focus on. For me, it's always about three things: is eating, it's what you eat in terms of health, sleeping, how well you sleep, and exercise. And so we'd like to communicate that and let it permeate throughout our community. We've seen some of the information as it relates to the statistics in our community that we're struggling with, and so this is just a way to get as many people involved as possible. Happy New Year to one and all, and I don't have any other comments. You have no comments? No comments. Okay. This meeting is adjourned. We will take public comments immediately. Yep, let's go ahead.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and